Welcome to Golf Smarter Mulligans, your second chance to gain insight and advice from the best instructors featured on the Golf Smarter podcast. Great golf instruction never gets old. Our interview library features hundreds of hours of game improvement conversations like this that are no longer available in any podcast app.
If you want the predictable ability to deliver your ball into that nice little safety patch behind the hole, you have to be able to have touch. All right, now here's how touch works. If you have the intentionality and you're wide awake and accepting to the reality of those factors that matter, distance, green speed, and uphill, downhill, the normal human, non-conscious brain is trained to know how hard to hit that putt. And all you have to do is you use a standard, same all the time tempo and rhythm. A rhythm is two tempos, the backstroke tempo, the forward stroke tempo. And once you size the backstroke in the tempo, you have already determined the impact that that swing will have at the bottom of the swing.
With another interview from the archives of Golf Smarter, here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome back to Golf Smarter for members only, Geoff.
Hey, Fred, how you doing?
Well, so we just lied to the audience. We just finished last week's episode and said we're just going to start recording once again. And we did. We recorded a full, I think it was like 40 minutes of our conversation. And within the last, as we were just about to wrap it up, my computer crashed and we lost all of it. So I got a great lesson that we can't share with anybody. And I'll be damned if I can remember what I asked you.
You were asking about putter selection, if I recall.
And that was going to be my first question, is I want to talk about, I think what I was going over was in the purchasing of a putter, we talked about face balance versus toe balanced. What does that mean?
Right.
And then we'll move on to different elements of putters. I don't want to ask too many questions at once, but let's talk about what is face balance versus toe balance when we're reading about and studying putters and looking to purchase something new.
Mm-hmm. The word irrelevant mean anything to you?
Yes, it does. I think Golf Smarter falls into that territory.
Face balancing and toe heavy 45-degree hanging putters like the old pings putters. Those are something that you do with the tip of your finger on the shaft about 10 inches up from the putter head. That's interesting, but it doesn't have anything to do with what happens when you swing a putter out hanging off your arms. That's a completely different physics. So there's sort of juvenile delinquent ideas about it makes a difference in your putting, and that you should use a face balanced putter is more suited to a straight back and straight through stroke, and a heel toe hanging putter is more suited to a gating arc inside and then arc to the inside stroke. And that's completely ridiculously wrong, because the physics is it doesn't the physics of the balancing that they're talking about on the tip of your finger doesn't really make that putter suitable to the stroke paths that they're talking about. What's the difference is that both putters, face balanced and heel toe hanging putters or heel shafted putters, both of those styles of designs will gate open unless you grip them with sufficient muscle tone in your hands. But once you grip them with sufficient muscle tone in your hands, there's not a particular difference in the physics. You overwhelm the physics with your muscle strength. How much difference? We're talking about something that might be like, can you control the mass of 1/4 of a golf ball with your hands? Answer, absolutely. What's the difference between the control or the muscle tone required for a heel-toe putter, which swings a little more vigorously, compared to a face-balanced putter? You're talking about the difference in muscle tone from grip pressure from a scale of 1 to 10 for a heel-toe putter, 0 to 3.1. And for a face-balanced putter, you're talking about a grip pressure somewhere around 2.9 to 3.0. So it's like an insignificant difference. It doesn't matter. If you grip it sufficiently, either putter, the issue of the face balancing is completely overwhelmed. It's just a grip pressure issue.
Okay. Well, it's interesting because I recently read an article telling me about the path, the putter path on on a face balance versus a toe balance is straight versus an arc, and you're saying...
Yeah, I'm saying that those people don't know what they're talking about.
But they can write an article.
Oh, they've been doing it for years. I mean, 150 years, I've read all of that. And I've struggled mightily to give the people that write articles like that the respect that they seem to demand, and they're not worthy of that level of respect because they don't make any sense. In terms of high school physics, that face balance and toe hanging balance is just completely irrelevant to what's going on when you hold it in your hands and hang it down at the bottom of your arms and swing it with your body. It just doesn't make any difference. It's interesting that people in golf magazines and on golf television repeat the same thing that they've heard other people say and purport to have expertise about it, but they actually do not. And that's kind of a hard lesson to learn. It took me about 5 years of paying respect to people before it dawned on me that they really didn't know what they're talking about.
Well, isn't that the world of punditry that we have today? Is people come on just because they're there, they think that their opinion matters.
It's absolutely the world of golf, and it's kind of sad because golf is not the same level of seriousness that major stadium sports are. That's for sure. The kind of science that you get in Major League Baseball or National Basketball Association is in the Olympic sports is absolutely light years past the kind of stuff that passes for acceptable science in golf. Golf is more of a recreation. And the hard part about golf and the seriousness of its science is that it's a solitary sport. It's not a team. If for example, the PGA Tour took some of its $650 million of television money from CBS and invested that in science to help the game, that would be interesting. If the USGA took some of its $60 to $70 million a year income, which they are required by charity laws to spend back out the door in the same year to a level of 95% of their income. If they took some of that and put it into developing science of how to play the game, how to design the equipment and that sort of thing, then maybe golf would be on a par with major league sports like baseball, basketball, football, Olympic sports. But it's not. They don't.
Which is absolutely fascinating because those other sports, it's all TV money, and yet golf is more participatory than I would think than any of those. And the amount of money that the industry, the manufacturing industry in golf, has. Do they not want that information out? Do they not want to support that kind of research? Or are they saying that it's their own and this is what they've come up with?
Well, there's kind of two problems. One is they hide proprietary research until they can get trademark protections.
Of course.
Patent protections. Well, yeah, but
sense. The
second part is that what they patent and protect scientifically is kind of stupid. Let me just tell you the story. Okay, here's the typical story that pops out. TaylorMade in Carlsbad, California, develops a anti-skid groove technology, ASGT. And it's basically grooves on the face of a putter. All right, so they're like 10 years behind other companies that have already done it, like Yes Putters and all that. So they're sort of aping something that's gotten some market share. All right, that's what companies do. Is this decent science? Is it actually something that benefits a golfer? Does it matter at all? Now, they've invested millions of dollars to develop this R&D and protect it. And then they develop many more millions to market it and tell golfing public that it matters. But it doesn't. As a matter of science, they are on YouTube where they kind of got caught with their britches down around their ankles. They put a YouTube out there.
Who did?
TaylorMade. Mm-hmm. From the Matt Studio Motion and Technology, whatever they have down in Carlsbad, California. they put a 15-minute interview with Dave Stockton Jr. about their new ASGT technology. What they did was they invited their player representative, Dave Stockton Jr., to come to Carlsbad, and they said, we just spent millions to develop this putter, and it really puts a great forward roll on the ball, and you're the master of how to do that with a stroke. You can put a better forward roll on the ball than anybody in golf. Great, praise you to the skies. But when we hand you our putter, our newly minted ASGT putter, even you will get a better forward roll. How about that, Dave? And he said, that sounds great. He said, how about helping us sell it? He said, sure, just stuff another $1,000 bill in my back pocket. They said, sure. And so then they had him hit some putts, and they said, okay, you put this forward roll on the ball with your stroke, and you've learned that over 30 years from your daddy or whatever. You've written it in your book and you teach it. You forward press, you hit up on the ball, blah, blah, blah. You start with 6 degrees, you take out 4 degrees, all that stuff. When you put this putter in your hand that we newly minted with millions of dollars of R&D, you get more forward roll. How about that, Dave? And Dave said an unfortunate thing on YouTube. He said,
I don't even want to guess, but it sounds like I love.
Well, no, I'm just trying to give you exact quotes. He said, when I put my move on that ball, when I put my stroke on that ball, it really rolls out for distance. And the guy that's been taking all the data from the MAT system that puts it all in a spreadsheet, he looked at his spreadsheet and he looked up at Dave Stockton Jr. and he said, well, not really. This is on YouTube. I'm not making this up. They put 15-minute interview, and this is right in the middle of the interview. This is like minute 7.5 or something.
Wait. I got to find a link to this YouTube video. Where did I look it up?
I think they've probably already taken it down because
of course they did.
They probably realized what it was. All right, so Dave looks up like a deer in the headlights, and he says, really? And the guy with the spreadsheet looks at the spreadsheet again, and he says, yeah, not really. Okay, now if it doesn't matter for distance control, the guy with the spreadsheet says it might matter a little bit on whether you have a left-right dispersion offline, but as far as distance, it doesn't really do anything. All right, now Dave Stockton has been working on his stroke technique and been shining his buttons about it for 30, 40 years now, but it doesn't do anything for distance control. And they don't really know whether it hurts the line control. They didn't really say that. They said it might. So Dave Stockton Jr.'s technique, they don't actually know the physics of true roll, whether it matters to go to all the trouble to get a stroke to do it. They don't know the physics. TaylorMade just spent millions on developing the grooves to follow in the well-trodden path of Yes Putters and other companies that already had the grooves and were marketing the grooves as true roll grooves. And their technology data just said it didn't make any difference to the result either. Now, both of those guys, the TaylorMade putter manufacturers and the Dave Stockton true roll stroke teachers, don't know what they're talking about in physics. Here's the deal on true roll. If you hit a ball with a good putter or a good stroke technique to give it some really good forward roll, you might get away with about 45 degrees of forward spin of the ball off the face of the putter immediately. We'll call that the standard optimal good result.
I'm sorry, but I have no idea what you just said.
Okay,
I don't get it.
If you take a golf ball and you draw a stripe on it vertical to the ground, as soon as you hit it, that stripe's going to turn towards the target 45 degrees.
Okay,
that's forward spin. That's about as good as anybody's going to get with most putters and strokes that they can develop without spending 40 years to get something like Dave Stockton Jr. got. Okay? Worst case scenario is you hit it with a badly designed putter or you hit it with a poorly conceived stroke action. You put 45 degrees of backspin on it. The little vertical line that you drew on the ball turns top backwards away from the target 45 degrees. Now, the physics is when the first ball engages the grass, it starts rolling even more, and eventually it's completely rolling and not skidding at all. The second ball, the backspin ball, as soon as it hits the grass, it takes it about 2 inches before it looks exactly like the optimal putt did at the very first moment it landed on the grass. So the bad putt catches the good putt, and it only takes it 2 inches on the ground to do it. This data is in all of these people's high-speed comparative photography, but they don't even look at it. It's not me saying it. It's in their data. They just don't know what a difference is between an A and a B. There is no significant difference between the behavior of the ball on the green according to what happens in those first 2 inches. Those first 2 inches, the ball is going as fast as it's ever going to go.
Sure.
A typical 10-foot putt, that ball is moving at about 100 inches per second. It gets through that first 2 inches in 2 divided by 100, whatever, how many seconds that is.
It's a fraction.
It's 1/50th of a second.
Yeah.
That's right. So there are no monsters in those first 2 inches that are going to ruin your line. And if you have a little more skid than somebody else does, if you're consistent with it, it doesn't make any difference. You have touch, and you can have it more consistently than the guy that's got true roll or so-called true roll. So basically, in all of golf, you have bad, dumb physics like this true roll stuff that nobody actually pays attention to until their data guy pipes up and says, well, not really. Old Mother Nature's out there is gonna get it right no matter what you think. And if you're a marketer and you're selling something and you made a putter with $2 million of R&D to have grooves on the face, and you're claiming that it gives you a better roll and a better something and a better something, you're not going to admit that it doesn't matter. You're going to stick on the fact that you got more forward roll off the face of the putter, and then you're going to start saying, and consequently, that improves your results. No, it doesn't. Wow. Dave Stockton Jr. can take all that true roll stroke technology and just keep it. You don't really need that. There's a more fundamental issue which golf people at putter companies and golf teachers do not even ask themselves because they don't want to go there. What is the physics of a flat slab of metal that will roll a ball without launching it in the air, even if it's not the greatest forward roll in the history of strokes or putters? What will give it a nice forward roll, some forward roll, without launching it in the air and making it bounce off the putter face? They don't know that because they've never even asked that question. There's nobody in golf that has ever asked, why does a putter launch a ball in the air? Okay, now, if you look at all their high-speed photography where they go, this is a great putter and it produces these 40 fast-frame pictures over 18 inches, the first 3 or 4 frames, the ball is in the air for 3 or 4 inches.
Right.
And then they compare it to a bad putter where they say, we beat this putter. That putter might go for skid and roll, takes it 20-some inches to get there. The first 6 inches or 7 inches, the ball is in the air. They include the ball in the air time when they're comparing putter A versus putter B. 4 or 5 of the inch difference is when the ball is in the air. They're saying that their ball rolls quicker and skids less, but the truth is that no ball skids when it's in the air.
Well, no, it skids when it hits the ground.
That's right.
And so, are you saying? Because
absolutely, I'm saying that. I'm saying
I play with a yes putter,
and
the Harold Swash, right?
Completely crackerjack, dumb. You fail high school physics stuff.
Really? So,
yeah.
So the fact that the ball, everyone's talking about. So the ball is in the air for the first couple inches. It's totally irrelevant.
Yeah, they counted in which putter is coming out to win the contest. Mm-hmm. But they're not supposed to count that. That's stupid. That doesn't have anything to do with skidding and rolling. Now, if they fixated on the idea of what launches the ball, I've never heard of it.
And is that the amount of loft on a putter? There is loft on a putter, right?
Okay, there's loft on a putter, but that's not really what launches the ball. You can hit up on a ball, and it will never come off the ground. It just depends on how you do it. They don't know that. All right, now let me explain to you why a ball will not come off the ground when you hit up on it.
Please.
Okay, first of all, if you think anything's going to come off the ground if you hit it on the up angle, try kicking the bowling ball off the ground sometime.
No.
It ain't going off the ground unless you overwhelm its mass with superior mass, superior momentum. You got to kick it with a big steel foot or else it ain't coming off the ground.
Right.
All right, so there's an inherent resistance of any object to come off the ground, depends on how massive it is. All right, well, a golf ball is not very massive. It's 45 grams, but there is some resistance in a golf ball. Now, unless you hit it more vigorously than that, even if you hit it on an up angle, it's not coming off the ground. So there's a very beginning situation where just the inherent mass of the golf ball is resisting coming off the ground. So you can hit up a little bit, but that's not really the answer. The answer is if you hit up, there's two ways to do that. One is to knuckleball and punch it on an angle up off the ground. That is, you take the center of mass of the putter head and you move it on a straight line through the center of the golf ball, and you don't change that angle. You just continue from the time you first contact the back of the ball until the time the ball separates from the putter face. You keep that same trajectory through the center of the ball. That's a knuckleball shot. That's like bunting a ball over the head of a pitcher, right? Mm-hmm. If you do that with the golf ball and you overcome its inherent mass that makes it want to sit on the ground no matter what you do, like a bowling ball, you punch it on the up angle, even as 3 degrees, like a typical loft of a putter, that ball will come off the ground. Right?
Sure.
Okay. Now, that's not what happens when you do a good stroke. What happens when you do a good stroke is the ball is to the left of the bottom of the stroke, and here comes the pendulum on a pendulum clock headed right through the center of the ball. But the pendulum is swinging down to a bottom and then up through the ball. It is adding loft while it's in contact with the ball. So you have blow number one, ball and putter first meet together. That blow will always direct right through the center of the golf ball because you can't really touch a slab to a ball without aiming to the center of the ball.
Sure.
The moment number two, when the ball and the putter separate, you have added loft because you're swinging up in a pendular arcing fashion. Right?
Yeah.
The putter is gaining altitude off the ground. That is the same as adding more loft to the face.
And does it matter if the pendulum, the swing of the pendulum is on the downside or the upside when it strikes the ball?
Well, don't complicate it till we finish this, and then we'll do that.
Me complicated? Are you kidding?
Well, yeah. You just all right, let's just finish this thought.
Something I never thought I'd heard Geoff Mangum say, that I was making it complicated.
Well, if I answer your question bluntly and plainly, it'll confuse everybody. So let me finish this one, then we'll do it. Okay. So you got trajectory of putter face at time one when it first meets the back of the ball, and that's always through the center of the ball like a knuckleball. But you have time two where you have added loft through impact like a pendulum swinging up off the ground, and so the second vector through the ball misses the center to the high side. And the net result of those two vectors is somewhere in between. And the net result of that is you don't hit a knuckleball. You hit more to the high side of the ball. All right. Now, if you hit more to the high side of the ball, you're basically going to roll the top half of the ball over the couch potato bottom half that doesn't want to go anywhere. That's how you roll a ball. You hit add loft while you're making impact, and the ball will roll nicely.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you don't percussively and violently smack it, it won't come off the ground. Now, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I was laugh at all this stuff about how you got to do true roll or else it's going to – they don't even fixate on the issue of the ball coming off the ground. Nobody does. Paul Hurian, for example, did a so-called independent scientific study of Yes Putters when he worked for Yes Putters. How you do that, I don't know, but he worked for Yes Putters, and he wrote a so-called independent scientific study of true roll of Yes Putters, and he completely missed the issue of ball comes off the ground, and he completely missed the issue of bad ball catches good ball in 2 inches. So he didn't make any sense. He went to work for Gel Putters. The guy that used to work for Yes Putters created a rival company in Australia to make a groove putter company. Groove Equipment, something or another. That's what GEL stands for. They hired Paul Hurian to work for them. Paul Hurian wrote a so-called independent paper for GEL Putters, and he did the same thing. He said, now GEL beats Yes Putters. He completely missed the issue of about launching balls off the ground and counting that in with your comparison of A versus B, and he missed the issue of 2 inches. They're all the same anyway. That's typical for all of these companies that manufacture putters and sell them with the idea that they made something special that will make true roll and you couldn't do it without them. Completely worthless, idiotic. It's not real. Doesn't pass the laugh test in high school physics.
What is the can I ask a question here?
Yeah, you want me to answer the other question?
Sure, go ahead.
What about hitting down on it?
Yeah.
Okay. If you hit down on it, and then you add loft to it, you're going to hit above the center of gravity again, even though what we mean by above is now kind of a little funny. There's 3 aboves. There's the above, according to the equator of a golf ball that sits on a level garage floor in gravity. You can hit above that center, above that equator. You can direct your force of blow of the putter to the top in that sense. The second one is you've got a ball sitting on a tilted surface of a green, and that equator is not now level with respect to gravity, but that equator with respect to the surface still defines a second top and bottom of the ball. And if you hit to the top of that ball, fine, no problem. The third definition of tops and bottom doesn't have anything to do with equators. It just has to do with the center of the ball and the net at time 1, and then the direction of your blow at time 2. If you hit above the center of the ball, that's hitting the top of the ball. So there's 3 tops of the ball. The ones that really makes the sense that is real is the one that's you hit above the center of the ball. So it's possible to hit down. When you hit down, you have a delofted putter, else you can't touch the ball above the equator. By hitting down, you mean you touch the putter onto the top quadrant of the back of the ball, above the equator somewhere.
Okay.
All right. So in order to do that, you got to have negative loft. The only loft of a putter that will actually hit the dead equator will be a 0 lofted putter. If you have a positive lofted putter at impact, you will hit somewhere below that, the same angle below it as you have on the loft of your putter. If you have a 3 degrees lofted putter out of what is exactly flat and vertical to the back of the equator, you're 3 degrees back away from that equator, you look at the center of the golf ball and the line that goes to the exact back equator as a 0, and then you flip that little line downward 3 degrees, and that'll point at a spot on the back of the ball where a 3 degree lofted putter will touch it. So you hit down on the back quadrant of a ball, you have to have some negative loft, like a negative 3 degrees, negative 1 degree, negative 2 degree. A negative 1 degree loft will touch the ball 1 degree above the equator. A negative 3 degree lofted putter will touch it 3 degrees above the equator. So what? Any of those are going to aim to the center of the ball. It's going to knuckleball it down into the ground unless you do what? Swing up like a pendulum and miss the center. In those cases, you're kind of driving the ball a little bit at the ground, but you're also rolling it. That's not bad. It's not terrible, because what you're really doing is you're engaging the ball with the grass a little more decisively than you do when you swing nicely up through it the way most people would. If you engage the ball a little more decisively with the grass, yeah, you'll get it true rolling a little quicker, but so what? You're only gaining 2 inches on everybody else.
Okay. So now the next, what is what's your question? Because I've written 8 in their last answer. Okay. So what is the most important part of the roll once the ball leaves the putter? As soon as it leaves the putter, or let's just say it's going in the hole just before it reaches the cup?
Once it gets off the face of the putter and lands on the ground, you don't have anything else to do with it.
Exactly. So that's why I want to know what. That's where I'm leading to.
Well,
all
the
this
real
physics. What does it have to do with me? I mean, it's fascinating, and I'm lost. And
let me bring the flashlight into the woods for you.
Okay, fine, thank you.
You don't care about true roll. Tell everybody to stick that stuff. Tell the putter marketers that you don't care about their true roll technology. Tell the teachers of the world you don't care about their forward pressing and their true roll stroke technologies. You don't care about the stroke, and you don't care about the putter that adds true roll, because it doesn't matter. What you care about is don't launch it off the ground.
And how do I avoid that?
Swing up like a pendulum, roll the ball, and don't do it very violently.
So with all this...
Use a mild tempo and rhythm. That makes your backstrokes bigger than they accept in the world of golf. You use a nice, fluid, slow, casual tempo. You better use a bigger stroke. And everybody in golf is scared to death of that, so they're telling you bad stuff. Slow down, take it easy, roll it nicely, roll it smoothly, roll it with a up pendulum swing through the ball. It doesn't come up much, it just comes up a little bit. But you need to roll the ball, not punch it. And that's basically all it requires. If you just roll the ball nicely with a nice little slightly upward swing through the back of the ball won't come off the ground. It'll start rolling fine. You don't care about the 2 inches, and the rest of it's up to the grass and the ball.
So putting is a crapshoot. As soon as it leaves, I mean, you can put a nice stroke on it, but again, as soon as it leaves the club face, you're out. You're not part of the equation anymore. And
yep, this is exactly what great putters understand and say out loud. People just don't realize what they're saying.
So, what makes a great putter?
A great putter is a guy who does not make the chances of his reading and his aiming any less likely to work out with a goofy stroke. They read it, they mean business. They aim it, they mean business. Once that's done, they're off the hook in terms of roll it with a good straight stroke. They just simply started on the line they aimed it, not any line, not pick a spot and roll it over that spot. There's only one spot to pick once you've read and aimed the putter. The same spot that the flat putter face perpendicularly aims at in front of the ball, straight through the center of the ball. If you don't start it on that line, you might as well not read it and aim it.
Right.
Okay, so
we're not talking about a spot. We're talking about a line that's you can draw right on the grass, right to the hole from your ball.
You know, it is whatever line comes off the face of the putter face.
Off the face, okay.
That line. That's the only line that you're allowed to hit if you know what you're doing, because that's where you read and aimed it. 90% of the golfing public does not do that. Probably higher than 90%.
Yeah.
Specifically, PGA Tour players don't do that, and teachers don't teach that. That's not in Dave Stockton Jr.'s book. It's not in Stan Utley's book. It's not in Dave Pelz's book. There's nobody in golf that says the ball must always roll wherever the putter face says it must. But the truth is that if you don't do that every single time, why'd you bother reading and aiming? There's another truth, which is, how are you going to know how you got your stroke? doing what it's supposed to do if you don't roll it in that simple, well-defined way with reference to the putter face. There's another truth, which is once you define the objective of what a stroke is supposed to accomplish, you find out that putters don't matter and stroke teaching methods don't matter. That doesn't matter. What matters is, can you do it with a basically competent putter? If you know the objective you're trying to accomplish with the putter and with your stroke, the putter doesn't make a whole lot of difference, and neither does the stroke. You can stand on one ear or one foot. You can sing songs and work math problems, and you can nut it right over the same spot the putter aimed at address. It's not hard to do. I just spent 2 hours in the golf repair shop. They had a nice putting surface, just picking through all the junk putters they have in there on consignment. And, there are some bad putters, but basically once you eliminate the bad putters, all putters, there's no significant difference between them.
So then I won't even ask you on the shaft being on a toe shafted or a center shafted. I shouldn't even, it's not relevant.
You just have to deal with the tool, man up and do it.
Man up.
If you think that the tool is going to do something magic for you, you're a victim of marketing and you're not a very mature individual.
Guilty. So,
Guilty. Now look,
okay, so you said.
Now you in particular, you've heard this before.
Yes.
I'm going to remind you of an interview you did with Scotty Cameron where you said, does your design matter? And he said, no.
That was on a different program. That's correct.
Yeah, but I'm quoting you what happened on your program. You had another person on that program named Frank Thomas, who was formerly the science guy at USGA.
Yep.
And you asked him what scientific innovations did he come up with when he went off the ranch of knowing what he was doing and designing the putter. He said he racked his brains for years trying to come up with something innovative for science for the design of a putter, and the only thing he could come up with was the color green.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yep.
And
Nike tried that.
these are well, Nike hired a Pacific Palisades optometrist.
Right.
Greater fool them. What does an optometrist know about vision? They know about eyeballs in a clinical sense, the refractive properties of lenses and corneas and the shapes of eyeballs, but that's all so that they can tell you what prescription glasses to go get. But other than that, they know nothing about vision in the brain. They know absolutely nothing about the performance requirements of skill for putting. So they need to kind of shut up. They designed some putter for Nike. What do you think Nike paid the optometrist to design their putter?
Yeah, a couple free putters, probably.
Yeah, a couple $100,000 probably. I mean, they've been paying Tiger Woods $40 million a year.
He's not making putts. So before you were talking about the four components of putting: touch, reading, aiming, stroke.
Right.
Okay.
Stroke is the dumb one. Stroke is what everybody is pulling their hair out and saying, I got the best and you need to do it this way, blah, 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 blah. Completely wrong. Nobody teaches a stroke by first defining what it is you're trying to accomplish with the stroke.
That's where I'm going with this question.
They don't even say that. All you got to say is once you know the objective, you can forget the technology. You can forget the technique. You just hit it where you aim the putter face, and that's not really hard to do. Okay, go ahead.
Well, so then I was saying, okay, so I'm reading the putt. I see a line. I'm trying to get it on that line. I'm aiming my putter head so that when it comes square off the putter face, it's going to follow my aiming point.
Right.
Okay. So now we have the other huge element for every person who owns a putter, and that would be whether we're putting 2 feet or 60 feet, which happens in any round, and we miss them both.
Right.
How can we learn? Who can teach us? What do you teach to give us how to get it to that hole, to get that distance correct? Okay.
All right. Now, read, aim, stroke, and touch. 2 of those are perceptions, read and aim. 2 of those are movement skills, stroke and distance control or touch. You just asked the big enchilada. Because if you get
that, huh?
Oh yeah, that's great. Now, but I'm trying to give it in 30 seconds. You can't read.
You cannot.
Well, if you keep interrupting, I'm not going to count that time. I need 8 more seconds put on the clock, please.
Go for it. This is a members only. We can go as long as we want, and that's why I wanted to have you back.
Okay, all right. Distance control is the predictable ability to manage the stopping of the ball where across any green, any distance you intended for it to stop. Predictable, consistent ability to stop the ball on the green where you want it to stop. And that it necessarily includes the slowing down and going past a spot right before it stops with a consistent speed past that spot. So, for example, if you want to send all putts in right slightly past the front lip of a hole to stop within 2 feet of the back of the hole, sometimes 6 inches, sometimes 12 inches, sometimes 18 inches, sometimes 24 inches, doesn't matter. If you want the predictable ability to deliver your ball into that nice little safety patch behind the hole, you have to be able to have touch. All right, now here's how touch works. If you have the intentionality to the space and you paying attention to the situation that matters in the world, which is how far is it, and how fast is the green speed, and is it uphill or downhill? If you have that intentionality and you're wide awake and accepting to the reality of those factors that matter, distance, green speed, and uphill, downhill, the normal human non-conscious brain is trained by the world to know how hard to hit that putt. And all you have to do is you use a standard, same all the time tempo and rhythm, which a rhythm is 2 tempos, the backstroke tempo, the forward stroke tempo. So you use a tempo and a rhythm. The body is already educated to size the backstroke. And once you size the backstroke in the tempo, you have already determined the impact that that swing will have at the bottom of the swing. All right, so you take something that has a tempo. Any stick that has a fixed length will be a metronome. If you have a longer stick, it goes more slowly. A shorter stick goes more fastly. But one length, if you make that hook to a pivot somewhere and you lift it and swing it like a pendulum, it will always swing from side to side with exactly the same amount of total time. And that means that short swings of that stick and long swings of that stick don't take any different time to get from top to the other top. They take exactly the same amount of time. What differs is a short swing at the very bottom is not going very fast. And a larger swing that reaches the bottom is going faster. Now, the marvelous thing of physics is that once you have a tempo pretty good down pat, and you swing back and through with a tempo and a rhythm, the size, if you swing the backstroke to one specific size, you will always have an impact velocity exactly at the bottom that never changes for billions of years. You can repeat it forever so long as you have the rhythm, the tempo, and then you do the same size swing over and over. All right. And so you make a bigger swing, you're going to get a bigger impact velocity at the bottom. And when you put a putter in your hand and you adjust that putter to the green speed and how far to go, your body basically picks the correct backstroke on the understanding that you're going to stick to the tempo and rhythm, and that will deliver the goods. So there's only 2 pieces to touch. Intentionality to the space with full awareness of distance, green speed, uphill, downhill, and then tempo, rhythm, let your body express the previously educated knowledge that it already has. That's completely non-conscious. Now, I don't bring up the word non-conscious without trying to kick a few golf psychologists in the teeth, because they don't know what they're talking about when they describe the difference between conscious and non-conscious. The non-conscious body has a flight manual that you need to know how it operates. And all they say is don't use your conscious mind, and that's all you need to do. Then they start slopping around saying, well, Darren Clarke's been playing golf since he's 5. Of course he should putt non-consciously. What is that saying to the rest of the golfing public? Don't putt non-consciously because you're not Darren Clarke. Only Darren Clarke should putt non-consciously because he's talented and hugely educated. That's ridiculous. Every normal human body already has better touch than Darren Clarke and Tiger Woods and Bob Rotella already, but they need to know how to operate the flight manual of the non-conscious body. There's only 2 pieces to it. Animal intentionality for the movement to the space, tempo rhythm. Let the body choose the size of the stroke and the force of the stroke. I teach that all day. I teach grandmas and curlers and everybody on greens how to putt with a greater touch than most PGA Tour players. That's how it works.
Tell me what you teach when you're doing your clinic.
Well, take a 10-year-old kid and you say, hit this 10-foot putt to the hole. They go smack, ball runs into the weeds 20 yards away. Everybody knows that. If you perch a golf ball on the edge of the hole and you say to the 10-year-old kid, okay, let's go to 25 feet and I'll give you 3 chances to bump that ball over into the edge of the hole.
And this is exactly how we started the last episode. We talked about...
That's right. That's right. That is teaching brain science.
Okay.
I got 20 years of it that says the human body is trained by the world to move in the spaces of the world, and none of that training is even noticed by the human mind. It's like when you throw your arm away from you, the world throws it right back. It always throws it back with the same tempo, no matter how far you throw it away. Well, you throw it away from your side against gravity probably 800 times every arm every day. And the world throws it right back at your legs with exactly that one tempo, no matter how far you threw it, 800 times every arm. You got 2 of them, so you're getting like 1,700 doses of your body works in the world this way according to this tempo. That tempo is not terribly different from one adult to another because their arms aren't that different. Ask anybody that makes shirts. 33 inches is a big deal in shirt manufacturers. But most adult bodies are getting a very closely the same tempo drilled into their bodies by the earth ball the rock we call Earth. The physics of that rock trains people's arms to a tempo relentlessly by the time they're an adult size, from then to the time they hit the grave. I've got like almost 50 years of training of one tempo, and if I want to know what it is, I just throw my arm away and watch it flop back at my legs. That's it. That tempo is the first choice of what tempo you ought to use. Nobody in golf even knows it's in the body. Nobody in motorsports knows it's in the body. And there's not but about 3 or 4 people in neuroscience that talk about it. There's one guy that wrote a whole book about it, and he don't quite get all the implications of it. His name is Alain Bertholz. He's a French neuroscientist that studied Russian cosmonauts' ability to throw a golf ball up against gravity and then time the closing of their hand to catch it when it comes down. And then he sent them into outer space and to the International Space Station to see if they could do the same thing. And they found out that they couldn't, because in outer space, the time that the ball moves towards their hand is not gravity time. So basically, the Earth puts a timing in your brain, and if you get off the planet, you're going to find out about it. But as long as you live on Earth, nobody even knows it's there. Okay, now this is like hugely important for everybody that concerns themselves with dancing, moving, any kind of sports like football, baseball, basketball, soccer, all of those sports. Motorsports people do not keep up with brain science. Brain science went crazy since 1990. It's gone 300 times more knowledge of the human brain than ever existed in 1989. And the people in motorsports at every university that ever cranks out a paper in a magazine about human movement, none of them ever read the brain science. I've been checking for 20 years, and I know they don't. It's a completely alien field of knowledge to motorsports people. Now, what kind of chance do you think that golf instructors are going to have to be up to speed on all this? Not likely.
No.
What do you think about the golf psychology people? They don't read the brain science either.
So when a student leaves your clinic, do they have a better understanding of how putting works, or are they better putters?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely what?
And they're absolutely better. And I mean, you can triple a PGA Tour player's income with one lesson.
Wow.
I've never done less than that with a PGA Tour player. I teach. I mean, they go slam off the planet when they get plugged into how the body actually works in space.
Can you talk about what PGA Tour players you've worked with?
Sure. I taught Sean McKeel one day, and 5 weeks later, he went from 160th out of 185 in putting to winning the PGA Championship, 16th in the field. And he said, everybody thinks his 7-iron won the PGA, but it's not. It was his putting. Okay. Steve Elkington won 10 times on PGA Tour, had a so-so year in 2010 where he didn't make enough money, and he was losing his card. He only made $220-some thousand in 2009, I think it was. No, 2009. And you got to make $750, or else you can't keep your card unless you have some other exemption. And he was getting, close to 50, so his exemptions were running out. We worked together basically twice in the off season. He came out. He had, I think it was 9 top 20s and 5 top 10s or something. He almost won the PGA Championship at age 47. He was T5 in the PGA Championship in 2010. He was a top 5 putter in almost all the categories. I think he was like number 3 in putts inside of 5 feet. He said frankly he had never been in the top 10 putting in his life.
Does it make you crazy that the tour pros miss putts within 5 feet? I mean,
it makes me crazy that they don't solve their problems. This is what you hear in PGA Tour every single week from almost everybody that plays. There's 200 of them. If you go to the trailer where they buy a cheeseburger cheap, it's called the Professional Caddies Association trailer. Mm-hmm. They go get a bacon, lettuce, tomato sandwich in there, or chicken sandwich, salad, or whatever, barbecue, pork, whatever. And they sit in there, and you always hear the same thing. My ball striking is really good. I wish my putting would show up. Their ball striking, they play 20 to 25 times a year for prize money of $5 to more million. First prize, $1 million. Make the cut, make the middle of the pack, you're going to get $30,000 or $40,000 for your week's effort playing golf 4 days in a row. And for 25 times a year, their ball striking might show up 15, 16, or 17 weeks. Mm-hmm. How many times do you think their putting shows up out of 25? Answer 4. And it's not even the same 4 as the 15, 16, 17 when their ball striking shows up. But they have a maximum of 4 events in 25 where they are seriously even contending. They're not even contending in 21 of those events. They're just hoping that everybody else falls off the rails and they just sort of sneak through with their ball striking. But they're not even seriously contending 21 out of 25 weeks because their ball striking has to be there with their putting or else they're not seriously contending. And year after year, week after week, they keep not dealing with the issue. They all do that. Chad Campbell is one that's done that, and it's pitiful because I like Chad Campbell. I wanted him to win when he came out of UNLV. He was touted as the next Nicklaus for winning because he was such a great ball striker. He's never gotten a handle on his putting. He missed a 4-foot putt in the playoff at the Masters with Angel Cabrera and Kenny Perry, the first guy to fall out of that playoff. He missed a 4-foot putt, and he didn't know why. That's pretty unacceptable for somebody that plays for $5 million a week, 25 times a year, and has been doing it for 12 years. That's dumb. Okay, now I'll just, if they're not going to deal with their issues, you can't help them. But if they get so desperate that they will look on the internet and call somebody, and then they jump immediately into the top 10, and they have a permanent understanding of what's going on, not only for just distance control, but for reading and aiming and stroke, and they get permanently better. That's the job of the teacher, is to get them permanently better so that they can self-coach and never fall backwards. If I've done a study of 20 years of PGA Tour statistics in putting, and you find out a rather stupid and shocking fact. There are 2,000 different players that got their stats generated over a 20-year period in the PGA Tour data bank. And of those 2,000, if you ask a dumb question, who got good with a certain minimum introduction to putting on tour? Who got good into the top 25% and stayed there consistently? So you make a little algorithm where you award points for getting high in the ranking every year, and you award points for staying in the high ranking every year, and you subtract points for falling out of the top 50 down to the 110th putting ranks and that sort of thing. And you ignore when people get sick or, they got to stop for a year or something like that. You don't hold that against them. If you crunch all the numbers of 2,000 players and 20 years of putting stats, there ain't but 10 of them that are worth saluting.
Wow.
That's 10 out of 2,000.
Wow.
That is way less than 1% of PGA Tour players are serious about their putting. Steve Stricker's one.
And was he one of those 10?
Yeah, and Tiger Woods has never been.
Wow.
No, not even close. Phil Mickelson is not. Brad Faxon is. Don Pooley is. Ben Crenshaw is. You know who's better at staying consistently in the top than Ben Crenshaw? Ben Crenshaw is number 2. Take a wild guess on who's number 1.
Geoff Mangum.
No, not me.
Oh.
Somebody that played the tour over that 20-year period, basically, I think it was 1986 to 2006, something like that 20-year period. Who's in there that's better than Ben Crenshaw?
I'm not one to follow the tour well enough to know.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, and everybody will be shocked. Payne Stewart.
Really?
Yeah. Payne Stewart was more consistently ranked in the top 20 in putting stats than Ben Crenshaw was.
Wow. That's really interesting.
Uh-huh. And, when Payne Stewart was facing that 20-footer to win the U.S. Open at Pinehurst,
yep.
I already knew that. I was just looking for somebody to bet, boy. I knew that. I knew he had that putt. I knew that putt was dead solid, gone.
Geoff, listen, I have, as always, in listening to you, I have more questions to ask. But we're already in an hour here, and I got to go.
Me too,
I mean, but it doesn't mean we can't do this again. It's always so much fun to talk to you. I always learn so much about stuff that I would never even consider when I'm out there playing golf, but it makes a difference when I get out there. So I'm just really glad to be a fly on the wall when you're talking.
It's great, man.
Just don't quote me on other shows. Jeez, come on, man.
I'm not quoting you.
You quote my questions. I don't. You listen?
Oh yeah, I listen to your stuff all the time.
Oh God, thank you.
You get people to let their britches down. I mean, no, I mean to let their hair down. I'm sorry. wrong cliche.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, that's actually. I knew what you were trying to say, and I think I'll take that. Yeah, I take that as a very high compliment. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, that's good if you get some ground covered, which you do. You're a great interviewer.
Oh,
I like it.
Thank
a lot of fun.
And I like you, man. And if you don't call me the next time you're out on the West Coast coming through up towards wine country, I'm going to be real upset with you.
I'm coming out that way in the end of February.
Okay. We'll get together.
Okay, man.
All right, buddy. Thanks so much again for helping us launch year 7 with some awesome information.
Great. Bye-bye.